Hello, I'm going to give everyone one more minute and then we will dive in and go ahead and get started. And for anyone that is listening in, I know several people had trouble getting the sign up link, so we will be, as always, recording the session and providing this out to anyone that is interested after the presentation. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So if anyone does arrive, they know they're in the right place. I will go ahead and share. I'm going to put it into slideshow mode as well. Oh, no, I'm not going to. I will stop sharing and move it over here. Let's try one more time. Share. Oh, the joys. Oh, the joys of technology. All righty. I believe I should be able to go ahead and get started. So today we are here to talk about welcome, it's 2025. Super pumped that you are able to be here. My name is Molly Yanis, and I'm the founder and a solution architect at Echolocity. We are a project management, work management firm really focusing on workflow improvement, training, and opportunities to expand capabilities and remove friction and find your flow and all other things like that. Today, we're here to talk about what's new in project management, what's new in work management, specifically focusing on some technology trends that we're seeing, and even a couple of predictions about 2025 and beyond. So hopefully you're joining us, you're in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and continue on. Again, Echolocity, find your flow, picture of a couple of our teams and things like that. So today we're going to be starting with what are the big trends and the big wins from 2024. So what did we see with some of our technology partners and what we saw with some teams and what they were adopting for new features and functionality. Then we're going to talk about emerging trends and predictions. I will provide some of the research and articles and things like that that we used to put this together. So at the end, I will have a reference sheet. And then I want to talk just a little bit about the implications for your teams and your organizations to make sure that you are on top of what's going on in this really exciting and dynamic industry of work management. And as you go, as I talk about each trend, I'm going to call out a couple of what I call watch tips, which says, all right, watch for this. When we start hearing about this, that's really where we see kind of that pivot motion, that transitionary time. We want to be aware of that. One of the books that I love is called Crossing the Chasm, and we're talking about that difference when we move from early adoption into really we're starting to see it in mainstream, right? So when we think about early adopters, there's some enterprise, a lot of smaller organizations and firms when they're really excited about something new coming out to actually, you know what, we're seeing a critical majority starting to partake of this. Along those lines, before I dive in, I do want to just talk really quickly about terminology. So today I'm using the words project management and work management. Oftentimes this terminology is actually driven by Gartner and their magic quadrants, but I just want to be clear, right? Task management versus project management, tasks being a list of individual tasks that need to be complete versus project, which has a defined goal, a defined start and end. It's a collection of tasks, a collection of activities, etc. Marketing work management, which is just now getting separated out from collaborative work management in terms of software. honestly, before there was separate marketing campaign and event software and things like that that were called out, but they're now kind of trying to separate out. We first saw this honestly in Smartsheet, but we've also seen it in Microsoft and we've heard it from Gartner. They're now doing their own Magic Quadrant on marketing work management versus collaborative work management. And then I love seeing always strategic portfolio work management, really more towards the strategy, decision making, prioritization, forecasting, and things like that. There's a lot of other components. So I wanted to just reference, if you give me one moment, I'm going to actually share. I just barely took a download from, honestly, from Gartner of all of their different Magic Quadrants. And I try to do this annually just because I find it really interesting. And this is the way that you get a list of all of Gartner's Magic Quadrants is you just go to their publication schedule. And when you see that, you'll see kind of what options they have in terms of what they're analyzing. So for example, adaptive project management and reporting, which is different than application performance and monitoring, which is different than all these other things. But for me, I like to get this list in Excel and I can just kind of see, okay, what are they talking about? And so for me, obviously, I'm searching for project management. I see that in marketing, they're doing some marketing work management, and then I see strategy and things like that. One of the things, I was at the CIO conference in May of 2024, and one of the things I heard from ServiceNow, which was super interesting to me because ServiceNow used to very much be in that support framework and that ticketing and things like that. They were actually calling themselves a workflow management software and talking about that. So how software is positioning themselves as a document management or a digital asset management versus a task management, project management versus a workflow integration management. All these softwares have all these different capabilities, and how you box them together and how well they fill that out is just super interesting. Sorry, I'm a geek here, but I wanted to call that out. All right, so let's keep going with terminology. For today, I'm going to mostly focus on project management and collaborative work management. So if you think about collaborative work management, think about multiple different projects and more than just task management and project management, but also some of that unique reporting, dashboarding, and how communication happens within mostly project teams, although we'll touch on some operations stuff as well. Hopefully everyone can see my screen and it says terminology, and I'm just switching it now to big wins in project management software in 2024. You'll see a ladder. You have heard it has been all over the news, AI adoption in project management in everything. Honestly, 10 years ago, PMI was saying that it was going to replace 60% of project management. It's just not true. However, there's so many really exciting things as a project manager that AI can help me with so that I can be so much more proactive. And one of the things that I'm most excited about really seeing coming as we hit 2025 is predictive analytics. So think about that from a project management hat, which is, hey, there's this risk, no one's touched it for 4 weeks. That now becomes an issue. So really predicting what is going to cause an issue. I think about it when I talk to my clients and my teams and say, okay, you know what? I'm noticing that projects seem to become yellow and red as you hit testing or training. Some of those things where we're maybe as project managers and organizations, we haven't always had the best project data history and things like that. And so it's been really hard to do like a deep dive into AI, but I'm starting to really see some trickling here and there, really more in the automated task scheduling, in the, hey, do you want to add this and things like that. We'll talk about a couple of the project management softwares that I think are the most advanced and usable in the AI space. Other things is project management has always been so closely linked with document management, project, document management, communication management. I'm actually pretty excited to see some of the players in project that are better known in project management than document management more closely integrating document management with their processes. So we saw that in Smartsheet's purchase of Brand Folder for sure. We've seen that in Docs that has come to ClickUp and Monday and things like that. But I'm starting to see more robust than just being able to attach documentation or, PDF of a documentation. I'm actually seeing some collaboration within the document, within the software platform. And it's exciting. We'll see how it goes, because obviously SharePoint, Dropbox, Box, they all, have a pretty good corner. As new players, not new players, but as players like Notion and Miro and things like that also start playing in that collaboration, document management, and or replacing the more traditional documents with whiteboards and other ways of collaborating, it's going to be super excited to see how they break those down again between project management and how we work as a hybrid society. So initially, when this was first kind of coming out and COVID and everything, we really just saw more and more reliance on Teams and Slack and Zoom and, Skype became Teams. But now we're seeing more. So we see Zoom with their whiteboard and Teams with their whiteboard, and, Slack now adding task management into some of their channel chat. But some of the more traditional project management players like Smartsheet, like Monday, like Asana, and things like that, having additional features, mentioning, chatting back and forth. And how do we determine if we're going to do that chatter within the project management software, within our meeting software, within our documents? It's just a really interesting space to be in right now. So I'll give you a couple of hints of things that you need to start thinking about for your team if you're not already doing that at the end. User experience improvements. Every year we see major improvements. Really the piece that we're hearing the most from our clients and our teams is talking about how long it takes to get someone new up to speed. And that can definitely speak to the software and usability and how intuitive it is. But it can also just talk to, we've seen people move towards more drag and drop versus multi-click, more shortcuts, more information on home, like tailored experiences and things like that. So we're starting to see project management really move away from that strict folder structure, document management more structure of like, hey, here are all the plans, here are all the lists, I have to go all these different places, and really be more intuitive in terms of, hey, these are all the things I've used most recently, maybe you want to check this out, and things like that, which I'm really excited about. Workflows have become easier and easier, and some of that's AI, but some of that's just user interface, right? I don't love the here's the top 20 templates of workflows. A lot of people do, not my personal preference. But I'm seeing that within workflow capabilities, it's becoming so much easier for non-technical people to understand how to do basic workflows. And I'm starting to see the ability, oftentimes people would be able to figure out a workflow, but they wouldn't necessarily know how to filter it down to really be useful. And I'm seeing a lot of new UI changes to make that workflow creation and management a lot easier. So one of the big things with workflows is if individuals are making workflows, how do I, as a global admin, be able to manage that? And so there's also some capabilities associated with that and managing wide range of workflows. So a lot of stuff happened in 2024. It's really kicking us off strong into 2025. So I'm very excited to be here and talk a little bit more about 2025. I will take a brief breath here. Does anyone want to add anything from the 2024 perspective of something that you were excited about seeing heading into 2024, heading into 2025? Okay, I will keep moving then. I know you will all be shocked that we are going to talk about AI. So as we head into 2025, the first thing I have to talk about is AI, machine learning integration. That's really where I'm focused. I'm going to start with a picture. Some of the top contenders that I'm really excited about is the AI that Airtable is putting out. And Smartsheet, definitely, Monday and Microsoft. I'm going to talk about some of the big players there. I did provide the actual write-up of the slide in addition. So predictive analytics. And so predictive analytics saying, hey, what do we think a risk is going to be? And how do we think the timeline's going to change so that it's not always a person having to do that, but rather they're given the data, it's processed, and then they can make that call. Automation of repetitive tasks, we're going to see continuous adoption of that. So it's going to be reminders, report generation, things that project managers have typically had to do of an admin nature. We're going to continue to see additional adoptions and capabilities in that space. And what I really think the big push in 2025 is going to be, it's called natural language processing, but really it's this concept of I'm in this meeting, I'm using, so we're in a Microsoft Teams meeting, I'm using Copilot. Copilot is not only transcribing, they're also keeping track of who's talking when, what they're saying, what the terminology is, when it is, and I'm able to quickly go back there. So using regular language, even for people that talk fast, like me, and being able to create the meeting minutes, create the recommended action items and things like that. So taking away some of that admin work and really, one, it's going to provide us better data history and things like that so that we can use predictive analytics, but also it's hopefully going to allow people to be more proactive and hopefully see some better project results. I think almost every single platform has rolled out something in 2024 and has something on their product roadmap for AI. I would definitely love to highlight, I would say personally, I really enjoy Airtable. I've seen some cool things with Smartsheet for dashboards. They are kind of keeping them separate from the dashboard. We have a whole presentation on that if you want to go in deeper. One of the predictions is that AI is going to assist in 60% of project planning tasks by the end of 2025. And again, I'll provide kind of some of those resources, but I think the biggest focus of 2025, in addition to ramping people up and making sure they're educated about how AI can help them in their day-to-day work and project managers, it's going to make it have an easy interface for non-technical users, people that are intimidated, people that find it to be overwhelming. How do we make it feel comfortable in the way that they work now instead of having it be this really big leap into the unknown? And so how do we make it more accessible to more of our team members and less overwhelming? So that's kind of the piece that I'm looking for, is when this becomes easier and more natural to day-to-day versus this big AI implementation across the board with all this functionality. So I think it's going to become more natural. And again, I did document all of this out, so I will provide that. Oops, sorry. So hybrid work model, not new. Obviously really pushed ahead in COVID. We've seen a lot of the news. Some teams are being forced back or forced back partially. I think what we're seeing in the project management space is we're already very comfortable in that online meeting model. We have some of the AI and some of the new capabilities with whiteboarding and things like that that are going to continue to make collaboration online. Where I really see things getting more exciting as we head into 2025 is more about time zone management, global management. Hopefully we'll see some trends in terms of like mental health and how we're handling notifications. I would like to see us as a workforce get more comfortable with brainstorming asynchronously. So not always via comments, but some of the new functionality within Miro, within Mural, within Lucidchart and things like that, less rigid in versioning and more open to moving things around without feeling like I've got to take a copy and over here and do my own thing and things like that. So I think we're going to see more and more tools where we can collaborate asynchronously, less dependent on being in the same diagram with the same version and things like that. And I'm already seeing that again with the whiteboarding and things like that that are already created within Teams. So here's an example. I'm in a Microsoft Teams meeting. I had the meeting. I used Copilot. I got notes. I got action items, all those other things. Well, I'm going back to those notes. I'm going back to the recording. I'm looking in there. And you know what? I want to make a tweak on the whiteboard. So rather than have a version like this was during the meeting, it has to stay as is or something like that, it'll become natural to go back to where we were and continue to work on it and collaborate on it. And it's less fixed and more open. So one of the other things I would say is you've already seen it in a lot of the in a lot of the meetings, but how do we connect virtually? We will continue to see that. And so virtual reality, right? That's one of those pieces. I don't see it that much. It's not my favorite, but I definitely see people like, how do we feel together online? And there's a lot of new platforms and capabilities out there on how you do that. So even in as simple as when we're in this meeting, who you're highlighting that's speaking, right? And then for some people that are on videos or, dogs are barking and things like that, how do people come together more naturally and are seen together and can see expressions and can feel expressions and things like that. So whether it's virtual reality or just better user interfaces to make sure that the person that's talking or focused is like highlighted, you'll see that again in Teams and kind of being able to see it in a group mode versus multiple different chat window modes and all those things. So we'll continue to see additional functionality there for support for hybrid. All right, customization and scalability. So what we're hearing a lot from our clients is, I have 20 different tools and they're all over the place, and where am I going and how do I make this work? So I was just on a call yesterday with a government organization that previously had like different teams for certification versus renewals versus checks and things like that versus programmatic and everything like that. They're trying to bring everyone together, and they each have their own processes. So constant problem of silos. They have their different teams. We're going to continue to see additional abilities to have unique workflow experiences for different teams, but have it be able to roll up in a modular way so that reporting can be better. So I've always used this word, like a couple of different use cases. So I say, is it an apple seed, an apple or apple tree or a forest? So that's one thing, understanding the level of information. And we're going to start to get augmented support to really identify sizing of things. But I've also talked about the fruit basket, which is, are these two different types of apples, or is this an apple, an orange, and a grape? How do we roll this up in a way that makes sense? So I see us continuing with the new workflow capabilities, the new integrations, anywhere from like Zapier and Make.io and Power Automate and all these other connectors. But I also see the ability for multiple different tools to be closer together, and each of these tools expanding their capabilities so that they can swallow up. So I would continue to expect to see some consolidation of tools as well. It's really interesting in the project management space because I really feel that Microsoft is coming for them. And so we've seen that in the Microsoft Planner rollout in the most recent portfolio concept, which I'm really excited about. Caroline just did a video on it. But where you have such a dominant presence in document management and collaboration management with Microsoft Teams, if Microsoft makes a major play in Planner and task management and smaller projects, it's going to really shake up the whole organization, the whole network of tools and what they play and how they specialize and how they identify themselves. So it's pretty exciting. You will continue to see the tools, project management tools, open up. So adding additional integration. So that's not going to go away. There's several big players that are already doing that really well with having their kind of marketplace of tools that other consultants and other integrators and everything can add in there, but also with like to each other so that they can control those connectors. So for example, Microsoft created a connector for Smartsheet. Now they can control the fact that Smartsheet can send information to Microsoft Teams, but Microsoft Teams chats don't go back to Smartsheet. That came up in YouTube earlier today, was a question being like, well, wait a second, if Smartsheet can send the new task to a channel message in Teams, that's great. But if there's chat on that Teams message, does it go back to Smartsheet? No. Is it capable of it? Sure. But since Smartsheet controls the connector, not Smartsheet, since Microsoft controls the connector, they then control what goes back and forth. So even though the API capabilities are there, we're going to see some maneuvering and politics between the different systems about what connectivity is built out of the box and available generally. All right. Customization, scalability, again, all the words are available. Okay. Analytics and dashboard. So we mentioned predictive analytics, which is saying this is what we think is going to happen. And in order to do that, we need some historical context. And the way that we're seeing enterprise organizations and security right now is the concept is that that should be based on internal data to your organization. And so that means you have to have project history data. And we haven't seen a lot of organizations, especially non-enterprise, with strong enough project data that we can really get exciting prediction capabilities and performance of that. But I think that that's going to change as we start to use these tools to augment transcriptions of meetings and things like that. We're going to start to have better data that we can use predictive analytics with. Dashboarding, every single major project management system did have improvements in their dashboards, and additionally, connectivity to other dashboarding tools and analytics and things like that. So Echo, Power BI is the Microsoft version, Tableau, for example. We've seen connectivity too, like with less official dashboards, but ways of visually representing data still. So it is technically a dashboard, just may not be the way I think about it traditionally. Honestly, in Miro, right? And in Lucidchart and things like that, where it's less about data connectivity, but more about visualizing the information. So we're continuing to see project reporting coming out of the more old school Word documents and PowerPoints and being more interactive, more engaging. And we're going to continue to see, and this is where one of those kind of gotchas, hey, definitely be working on training your team up on this, is about how to use visual aids to support the decision-making and escalation and risk management process. So less of the lists and or just like same templates over and over again, and being more encouraging project managers with these new tools that are far more accessible to be more creative in the way that they visualize project data. So very excited about this trend. It's more than just a dashboard. One of the things I'll just highlight here, I always like to talk about this from an Echo perspective, is role-based information sharing as well. So one of the big things that we talk a lot about at Echo is not a single dashboard, right? Like what you're presenting to the CEO or to the C-suite is different than what you're, presenting to management, which is different than a team or resource manager, which is different than the project team that's day-to-day. So how we can take the same information, only updating it, single source of record, but representing the data visually to the user and depending on what that specific person needs to contribute, right? The top 3 highlights for leadership that is not involved day-to-day is different than the top 3 highlights for the project team. And project managers for the longest time have done reporting in different cadences and different places, but we need to start leaning into our tools to be able to filter the data and create the rules and the logic so that the right people have the right information at the right time. So analytics and dashboards. So we will continue to see auto-created dashboards and visualizations and insights and things like that. It still needs a person. It still has a ways to go because we don't have great project history data yet, but we are heading in that direction. We're going to see major, major steps forward in 2025, and I am so excited about it. I'm loving the fact that as I'm doing my research and my reading, more and more data science, data analytics, predictive decision making. It's just very exciting, and it's so closely entwined with project management, strategy management, things like that. We're not an island. We need to be close with the strategy management, prioritization, and analytics team. So if you don't have an analytics team, you don't have a data scientist, you don't have a BI person on your team, definitely be aware of that as a project manager, that is a huge opportunity, because project data will continue to grow and be more and more impactful. So don't be scared of it, lean in. All right, user experience. So back in the 70s, we got the Gantt chart, and it's all cool. We still need it, and we're excited as project managers about our Gantt chart. We have the timeline view. We've got some card views and board views and everything like that. But we've got dashboards, right? But what's next in project management user experience? And what I'm hoping is that it is going to be more enhancements in the way we view work collaboratively for multiple different projects and multiple different things. As a project manager, I may have multiple projects, but I also have work I need to do operationally. And same thing for team members, individuals that aren't full-time on projects. So where I see the enhanced user experience coming from is a home view. And I think I mentioned this before in some of our project management tools like Smartsheet and things like that, where you're coming to a home and it's telling you your most recent, your favorited, and things that they think you should look at. So if I know that I have to do updates every Friday because I have to do weekly project updates, it should be telling me that. It should be right there. And that navigation might be different than on a Monday where I'm cleaning up the weekend. So the enhancements in the user experience I see is continued improvement in tailoring and personalizing information, and the merging of project and product and tasks. So here's an example for a UX improvement I'm expecting to see. I have personal tasks that I need to do today, in addition to the project tasks, in addition to the manager might have told me, or someone in networking. But I need a way to see all of my different tasks. I need the ability to be able to track that all in one place. And a lot of people have done workarounds for that for themselves. I mean, I still use analog, to be honest, but I think that we're going to continue to see our technology allow us to incorporate our personal tasks, our personal things that we need, along with project work, along with operational work and things like that. So task management will broaden and have a better user experience. And then I believe that we will continue to see major improvements in being able to see across projects, and projects not all having to be the same size and the same type. So an IT project versus a marketing project versus something else, I think that we're going to see, just like I said, I think the tools are going to start playing nicer and nicer together. I also think that the views across projects and project dependencies, that's really where I see some improvement. So I'll call out Planner here just because they just released the portfolio view. Technically speaking, I mean, like, they released roadmaps in 2018, so it's not actually like new functionality for Microsoft, but it's more accessible because it's coming from Planner and Teams and things like that. Miro, same thing. You've got different boards and different information, and sure, you can push it to Smartsheet and back, and like there's some connectivity, but you're starting to be able to pull things from multiple different places and visualize it and collaborate on it and have it edited in one place. Same thing, Microsoft using Loop. So this more cohesive experience, and hopefully it'll be cohesive enough that we can reduce our tools as well as continue to have a more customized, personalized experience. Simple, intuitive, gamification, definitely continue to see gamification, and Notion, prediction, UX. Oh, voice command features. Yeah, so the piece that I forgot to mention there was we do anticipate seeing voice command as well coming into play. So if you think about all those shortcuts you have, think about voice shortcuts. So that's what we're hoping to see. Integration with other systems. I've been talking about this. I'll go pretty fast through this. So API-driven ecosystems, seamless integration. If you remember back to the Gartner Magic Quadrant that I was talking about, you'll see that API management, workflow management, the ability to look at that as a global admin. The tools for that are expanding, which is awesome because it means we can do more with those integrations and not have it on our list of technical debt because only 2 people have to manage it and how we do that. So I'm really excited about that. And then integration, we've seen it again. Zapier, Make.io, Power Automate, I think is just less user-friendly right now, but we're getting there with AI. It'll become more user-friendly for sure. But the ability for no code, non-technical people to integrate between systems and both as individuals as well as on behalf of their team without causing major security concerns. So that's where the missing piece has been, which is we've got to limit people in terms of what they have access to because we haven't had the right data security, the right governance in place. And there are starting to be tools where that governance can exist and you can loosen up the reins and allow people to do this. So it's been a wild, wild west or way too strict and making it so that people can't be self-sufficient. But we're finally seeing the governance and the tools in place where people will be free enough to start doing those integrations by themselves without causing major disruptions to security and compliance. And yeah, I mean, AI-driven recommendations for integrations. I watched a really interesting webinar on process mining. So not just the integrations that we think about, but like looking across all the different processes that they are, all the different connections, and making recommendations on how to be more resilient and how to simplify and how to manage it better. So again, using some analytics, using some honestly data associated with this. So definitely for projects. If you think about this, we do this as a project team when we do retrospectives to some extent. We're trying to figure out what did we learn? What are the lessons that we're learning and everything like that. Imagine doing that from a technical tool perspective where when you start a next project, you have those already applied for any of the things that the tool needed to be adjusted with midway through and things like that. So better integration and pieces like that. All right, and we've already seen some of this just honestly with people on projects that have vendor management concerns and they're using one system and you're using another, and how do you play well together and not have to use email reports back and forth or copies and everything. Like there's a lot of more tools associated with that. So I'm excited about this piece. Integration with other systems continues to be an area of excitement. Hybrid methodologies, this is more about tools and templates being able to be configured for different types of projects and frameworks. So you've heard about this for a while in terms of agile versus waterfall, iterative, sprints, boards, safe, all the different ways of managing a project, right? And at Echo, our position is very much that it has to suit the culture and the goals of the project. So we don't want to be so regimented that it has to follow this process when 80% of it doesn't make any sense. But we also don't want to be so loosey-goosey that everyone's is completely different and it's very difficult to roll up. We're starting to see tools that have templates and have ways of working that work for different types of projects without it just having to be different templates in terms of what tasks are on there. So we can have a template set that is a board for a certain type of project, but then is a grid for another project, which is integrated for a different one. And it's not just managing a quantity of 20 different templates, but rather it can adjust as we go. So Zoho Sprints is one of the ones I looked at recently because I hadn't been looking at Zoho projects recently, but I was excited by some of the capabilities there and some of the personalization, which is looking at views, not just as a project as a whole, but like my personal views of the project without it just being a filter. So I was really excited about that. But really what we're looking for is, hey, yes, product team, you're managing it in Jira or somewhere else, and you're using epics and stories and points and everything like that. But when I'm doing forecasting for the next year, that is translating into something that I can use because you're the only ones using story points or you're the only ones using this. Yes, you can do your release management process, product team or IT team, but I also need to be able to report over here. So it's really think about communicating better, like two different languages, or not even necessarily two different languages of project management, but different dialects, and how that can be unique. So the way that you use milestones in Jira is different than you use a milestone in Planner or in Smartsheet, but you have to be able to translate, and you don't want to always have to be able to write out the translation one-to-one. You want to be able to have them understand the nuances and be able to roll up for project data reporting and status reporting and things like that. So one of the interesting ones I like in project management when I think about this is, I was just looking at the Planner video we did about portfolios, and it was talking about percentage complete. And when I think about percentage complete, there's different ways to do it, right? Percentage complete can be the number of tasks complete. So if I have 100 tasks and I've done 50 of them, I'm 50% complete. Or it could be effort, which is, okay, like I've estimated the effort of all 100 tasks and I've done 90% of the effort, even though I have 50 tasks left, because 50 of the tasks are really more checklists for the actual thing. So that's effort-based versus quantity-based versus duration. So instead I can say, hey, we're 50% of the way through the schedule from start to finish, or 50% of each task, right? To total up to 50%. There's different ways of doing it. It's not that one's right and one's wrong. One makes more sense for one project than the other. But what happens is if you roll up one team that's doing it based on quantity and another team that's based on percentage or has effort, they don't map. So how do we build that into our tools? And how do we roll things up so that we are really able to get a view that is logical across silos and across methodologies? So when I think hybrid methodologies, it's representing the fact that we don't all work the same way, but we do need to be able to have visibility and accountability and transparency into the work that is being completed, not just your own and not just your teams. Okay, so Caroline and I went to the Microsoft conference in Orlando in April of 2024, and there was a whole section on ESG tracking and reporting and tools and things like that. Super excited about this. Obviously, Vermonter, you can guess, but having that be part of project management and project data and tracking and seeing more and more of that in tools. And the first glimpse of this, honestly, is just templates that are showing up within project management tools already. But it also comes in terms of integration with tools that have already done that. It's honestly coming, even I was talking with another client about some grant management things and reporting that they needed to do. And it's just another way. Some of it is just project data that we're going to start capturing. So it's just additional fields or content. But some of it is tools or the way that we have to report and analytics and things like that. But I would expect to see it, and I've done some research on this again. I have a couple articles, showing up in dashboards and being part of a project and being part of an engagement. And again, seeing this more in constructions, in engineering, in research and development, in some grant research and things like that, project management versus more in the software side of things. But starting to even see some of that ESG and sustainability reporting in terms of resource allocation. And honestly, location management and things like that, event management. So definitely you're going to see more and more with this integrated with project management and project manager responsibilities, and excited to see this trend as well in 2025 and beyond. Pretty much all of the project management tools that Echo helps implement at this point have some sort of mobile experience. Some of them have apps. A lot of them have web experiences as well. I think we're going to start to see more capabilities in terms of mobile-specific automations and communications. So think about that in terms of the ability to text a notification. So if you think about, I'm just using Smartsheet, it's the one that top of mind. I can send a notification to my, you know, to my app. I can email. But what about the ability to text or call or some other way of communication? So I really think that we're going to see more of that. I also think that the experience is going, a lot of these platforms honestly started from desktop and are building out a separate mobile experience. But as these new capabilities come in, I'm hoping to see a continued movement towards kind of mobile first design in some of these new functionalities. And I am seeing it as we look at some of the new timeline functionality and dashboard functionality that's coming out, that mobile first design. And with that, understanding a little bit, again, touching on that predictive analytics, but looking at individual users and their open rate of notifications on mobile versus an app versus email versus chats and things like that. So starting to be a bit more intuitive and proactive in the way that we notify. So imagine as a project manager, if it didn't just take previous experience working with someone to understand how that person prefers to be notified or communicated with, whether meeting or notification or email or something like that. So I think you're going to start to see some user preferences as well in terms of the communication space and device space. All right, so those are the top 10 trends that I was going to talk about today. As we head into 2025 beyond, you heard me talk a lot about AI. One of my areas of nerdiness is definitely on decision making and prioritization. When I talk about predictive analytics, it's definitely really pushing some of that decision making and you know, being in. We talk a lot about, which is like, we need to provide the right information to the right people at the right time to facilitate decisions. As a project manager, I am not a decision maker, right? I am a decision facilitator. That's going to continue to be the case. AI is not, maybe eventually it'll help make basic decisions about whether or not to notify someone now or in 2 days based on the type of task it is. Like, it is going to start to make some basic decisions based on historical data and rules and things like that. But you'll continue to see, hey, do you want to do this? What about this? Did you notice this? So more kind of capacity building and information sharing and idea ideating and things like that. Again, we're hearing a lot about the fact that people have 300 different tools or 30 different tools. And now I'm telling you that, hey, people are playing in lots of different places. So Slack added tasks and Smartsheet added documents and more mentioning, and Monday has, workflow management things. Like, these tools are all extending their capabilities. And so at some point, right, and Microsoft, the big player, the elephant in the room, is getting, is starting to actually provide a mid-market and definitely, low-key project management tool in Planner. That's really gonna, it's really gonna shake things up, especially if we do head into a recession or something like that, where people are really more cognizant of their licensing costs. So it's going to be interesting. Sustainability metrics, we're going to start to see more of that in software evaluation. We're going to see more of that reporting in project managers. ESG is a theme that we've seen in most of the conferences and things like that with project management. There's going to be roles associated with that. There's going to be more focus on personalization, tailored experiences, right people, right time, and then more integration. Hybrid work is not going away. How do we show up? How do we see people? How do we interact with people? And honestly, how at Echo we call about like the way we work and how do we fill our cups and things like that. That's going to be a constant evolving case. Like, there's a lot of studies about how honestly bad for us the way that we currently work, getting pinged all the time and always on mentality and everything like that, like coming in and being overwhelmed by all these different priorities and not having a clear vision and being able to focus. So project management has to deal with that. It impacts project success, it impacts work success and team morale. We're going to continue to see testing and different ideas on how, honestly, project management can be more effective, but also be more enjoyable and less firefighting. And so they're going to, some of that, again, that predictive AI, and some of it, the way we work and the way we connect with our teams and how we communicate with them in a less frustrating way. So I, for one, am very excited to be in project management right now. This is good news. So in case I wasn't clear enough or energetic enough or anything like that, it's a great time to be in project management, in work management in general. There's new tools, there's new capabilities, there's more and more need for project managers that have the soft skills, that are proactive, and that have a strategic mindset. So it's an awesome time to be in here. Honestly, project manager for the longest time, I consider myself a cheerleader. I consider myself, an enabler, an empowerer. It's a great time to have a persona of a project manager in an organization. As you want to grow in your capabilities and your capacity, I want to see project managers continue to lean into their roles as facilitators of educated decisions and of risk managers. I have always said this, your primary role in the project management is things are going to change. Your goal is not to not have things change. That's not the point. The point is to be able to see as far ahead as possible, right? And that when risks happen and that you can't avoid and that things happen, that you are proactive and communicative and getting the right people in the room at the right time. So better risk management, more proactive management, and honestly, continue to lean into that facilitator role for decisions and collaboration and things like that. There is so much upskilling that needs to happen. AI is this whole ball of wax. But honestly, just the types of deliverables that project managers are responsible for. And when I was talking earlier about like dashboards and status reports and everything, there's such an opportunity for project managers to be creative and intentional in the way that they provide visibility and transparency and how they create a culture of accountability within their project, getting the right people involved and understanding the right roles and responsibilities. So integration complexities, right? Lots of different teams working on lots of different things, lots of different projects happening. There's a lot of complexity, hybrid, global. So there's a lot going on for project managers. There's a lot of people that are experiencing burnout. If you're upskilling, definitely honestly subscribe to whatever project management tools you have to their product releases. If they have an early adopter program, definitely look it in. Subscribe to a couple of newsletters to people that you enjoy. You can subscribe to Echo for sure. We do a lot of free content. But lean in, be curious. It's a really exciting time, and it's not meant to, that there is a huge need for project management. And so it provides plenty of career growth and opportunity. All right, well, I think I was supposed to have a question slide, but we're Echo. My name is Molly Yanis. Hopefully you enjoyed this presentation. I will be providing a list of sources. I think I provided 3 different articles, anywhere from Gartner and Forbes and TechCrunch and lots of different articles across to really back up some of those trends that I'm seeing. Because, well, I'm sure you just automatically trust that I know what I'm talking about. I'm sure that you'd love to see some sourcing behind that as well. At Echo, we do implement project management, workflow management software. So here's a couple of our big ones, definitely Smartsheet, Microsoft. I think I mentioned I was a nerd in decision making and prioritization. So we have a software that we created called Stralign, which is all about strategic alignment and prioritization and things like that. It kind of feeds into the project management. We have a team of expert project managers, program managers, et cetera, And we help other teams that maybe don't have a full-time project manager or have a team of project managers, but someone's out on leave or they need a half-time project manager for a specific project. We call it staff augmentation. We definitely do training. We're excited to do several pretty awesome off-site trainings for some bigger companies this year. We've done some workshop facilitation, often talking about project management. It really is a therapy and things like that. Even just trying to make sure that that communication is flowing between project managers and program managers and analysts and IT and things like that. We do a lot in the project management, PMO, change management, risk management. I'll leave it at that. But if you're looking for support for your team, if you're looking for building a business case on why now is the time to really lean into the way that you work and the opportunities that you have to really find your flow in your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love questions. We have free opportunity to do a complimentary meeting. You can definitely subscribe to our content. We put a lot of our videos out on YouTube. That's how most of our clients actually find us, is because we provide videos on YouTube. But our website has resources, upcoming events, as well as some templates and things like that from what I talked about today. So I hope everyone found this very useful. We talked about work management trends, both for 2024 and 2025. And again, I'll just go back all the way to the beginning. And my name is Molly Yanis with Echo Consulting. We're now called Echolocity, talking about velocity and traction. And today was all about trends and predictions for 2025 and beyond for work management and project management. Thank you so much. Have a great day.